We had Lil D on our show recently.
That's my man.
Darryl Reed.
Yeah.
And he actually talked about how he met you the first time.
So I met this guy, Freeway Ricky, right? When I met him, he was in his old station wagon, you know? And he was dressed like a bum. But they told me that this was his MO, you know? He was looking like a bum, but he getting money, right? So I met him. He said, man, how old is you? And I told him. And he said, who you down here? Who sent you down here to do business? I said, man, I'm doing the business, you know?
Yeah, man, I remember they was telling me about Lil D. It was like, this little dude, man, I think he must have been about 18 years old, I guess.
Yeah, really young.
He was young. I was young too. I was probably only like 24, 23, something. I was still young myself, but,
right.
You know.
He was really young though.
Yeah, he was real young.
Like, he was running it at like 16 and then kind of built up at 18. He was he was essentially the crack king of Oakland.
Yeah, he was. And at that time, he was spending 600,000, I think, maybe, at like 18 years old. So, yeah, D was killing it. And I remember. I remember when we first met, when I got in the car. And I think we were riding in a van. Somebody picked us up in a van, and he was in the car. And they was like, man, this is such and such and such and such. He's from Oakland. And I'd heard of his uncle already, you know.
It wasn't actually his uncle.
Okay.
Felix Mitchell. We talked about that in the interview. Everyone kind of assumed and ran with that story.
Yeah.
But technically, it wasn't his uncle. It was someone that took him under his wing.
Okay.
But it wasn't actually, Felix Mitchell wasn't actually his uncle.
So the streets just took it upon themselves and started saying that Felix Mitchell was my uncle.
Okay.
So in actuality, he's not my uncle, and I've always tried to explain that, you know.
All right. Well, I was always under the impression that
everyone was.
that was his uncle,
Yeah.
and I had never heard of D. So when we met that day, it was like, all right, cool.
Do you remember any of the conversations you guys had? Was there anything that you kind of tried to impart on him?
Nah, not really.
Not really.
I can't remember. We got tighter in jail.
Ah, okay.
When we were in jail together, we got tighter than we were on the street. You know, on the street it was more of customer buyer-seller relationship.
Were you actually supplying to him?
I have, yeah.
Okay. And he ended up getting caught on his 20th birthday and got a 35-year sentence.
Yeah.
Which he ended up doing 27 and a half years, ultimately getting clemency from Obama.
Yeah, that was devastating, but yeah, he did a lot of, he did just about all his time. Obama really didn't do much.
He shaved off a few years.
Yeah, shaved off a few years, but D had walked it down.
Were you already in prison when he got arrested?
No, I went after him.
You went after him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here you are. He was 20, you were like 26, 27?
So, roughly.
So here's a guy younger than you doing the same thing you're doing, more or less, and he just got this heinous amount of time.
Yeah, but you don't know that.
You don't?
How would you know?
Reading the news?
I don't read the news. I couldn't read at that time.
Oh, you couldn't read?
Not at that time.
Right.
And I didn't watch the news either.
Okay, so you had no idea what was happening?
No, I didn't know. I mean, when I found out, I don't even know if I knew D had went to jail. You know, I knew Harriet was in jail, you know, but, you know, Harriet was in there for the kidnapping and attempted murder. And then I know when Bo had got arrested, you know, that was all over the news and everybody was talking about it.
Bo?
Bo Bennett.
Okay.
But I didn't really know, and I only knew about Bo because people called and told me. You know, oh, you know, they just got Bo and they got Corvette Mike and this and that. So I really didn't know, you know, I didn't keep up with the news. I didn't know that there was a crack law. I didn't know none of that stuff.
If you had known how to read back then, being as intelligent as you are, and do you think that you could have avoided actually going to prison?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. If I believe that selling drugs is something that you do because you like the knowledge to be able to do something else. And a lot of times we're afraid to try other things because we don't think that we can do it. You know, and that's how I was at that time. I didn't feel that there was no other options for me. So mine was do or die. You know, I'm gonna make it or I'm gonna die doing it.
Yeah, get rich or die trying.
Yeah, like they say.
Like 50 said, yeah.
50 Cent.
Yeah. And you know, and I remember when I talked to Lil D when I said, what separated you from the Felix Mitchells and the Freeway Rickies and stuff like that? And he said,
what I'm gonna say this, what separates me from the guys like Freeway Rick and a lot of these other guys who had a run and who made a lot of money. All these guys was much older than me, right? None of them guys did what I did at my age. And even though they might have been in the game hustling for many years, I achieved what I did within a 3.5 year period of time and a teenager in high school going to school. So my story, I can easily separate my story from these guys that we're talking about, though all these guys are much older than me, right?
Yeah.
and ultimately when Lil D got arrested, well, number one, he told me that
when I got arrested that night, I accepted it right then. I said, it's over. Like immediately out the gate, wasn't no in denial. Man, I'm gonna beat this case. It was those conversations with my older partners who told me, man, you jump off the porch, you get caught up for whatever you choose to do. You gotta accept the consequences, because if you tell, we gonna kill you. See, that's the cloth I come from up under. I come up under a different cloth.
And he didn't tell on anybody. He had ledgers with like 50 names in it, and they were like, well, just tell us all these names are and so forth. He said no.
Yeah, Lil D was solid.
Were you in a similar situation?
No, I didn't keep ledgers.
Were you in a similar situation where they asked you to give up a bunch of people?
Well, I was fortunate that my first time that I went, that I had the cops on my case. And in my situation, they caught me, I wasn't selling drugs. You know, I've never been caught red-handed selling drugs.
Okay. What did they catch you with?
Nothing.
Conspiracy.
Conspiracy.
Okay.
So I always felt that I had an opportunity to win. And I had started this investigation on the cops before I ever got arrested. You know, I'd hired an investigator, and that wound up being my ace in the hole. So in my situation, the guys that they would have wanted had already been arrested and was telling on me.
Ah, right, yeah, I think you mentioned that last time.
Yeah, so my situation was kind of different. The second time, they did ask for cooperation.
And you wouldn't give it to him?
I didn't know nobody.
Okay.
And like, you got Danilo Blandon,
Yeah.
you know.
And he went to prison?
No.
No.
He was working for the government.
So he walked away.
Right.
Is he still alive?
I'm sure he is. Yeah. I haven't heard that he passed.
Okay. What would happen if he walked in the room right now?
Oh, nothing.
Nothing.
I have absolutely nothing against him.
Really?
Nah. Wasn't his fault. See, the way I look at it is, first of all, I made the mistake of getting in the drug business. That was my first mistake. My next mistake was I went back into the drug business after I said I quit.
Yeah.
So what he did is he only did what people do in the drug business. They tell. They set you up. And for somebody to go into the drug business and not understand that, which I was in the drug business and didn't understand it, but I came to grips with it.
Yeah, I mean, just recently in my own personal life, I started thinking about all the people I'm upset I'm still angry at over various things that happened to me over the years. And I started thinking about how there was one guy I'm still angry at over a fight we got into in high school, and this guy had committed suicide some years later, and he's dead, and I'm still angry at him.
Wow.
And I started thinking like, okay, what's wrong with my head right now? Like, why am I feeling this way over someone who's dead that there'll never be any closure? And what I realized at that point is that what I needed to do is take a step back and look at every situation and take responsibility for my role in all those situations. Not to feel like I was a victim and how this person wronged me for absolutely no reason. To say, well, yes, this guy did something to me, but I was actually at fault also. I did these things that led up to it.
Absolutely, and that's the way.
And once I started taking responsibility for my own role, I started to feel less angry at the person and the situation, and it made me feel better as a human being.
Well, that's really how I got out of prison. You know, I got out of prison that same way because once I figured that that I wasn't a victim and that I should be in prison for my actions, then I realized that it was my actions that got me in, and it could be my actions that get me out.
Right.
So I started making the steps to and it's crazy that I just talked to the lawyer who represented me just before we got here, and you know, he was asking me about somebody that I was mad at, and I was like, mad at him for what? I ain't mad at nobody. You know, I don't have anybody in the world that I'm mad at. You know, first thing, being mad is being out of control anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I never want to be a mad person.
True.
Because once you become mad, then you're no longer in control.
Yeah.
You're just mad.